So spake he in wrath, and dashed the staff to the ground, and brake forth in tears. And pity fell on all the people. Then all the others held their peace, and none had the heart to answer Telemachus with hard words. But Antinous alone made answer, saying, Telemachus, proud of speech and unrestrained in fury, what is this thou hast said to put us to shame, and wouldest fasten on us reproach? Behold, the fault is not in the Achaean wooers, but in thine own mother, for she is the craftiest of women. For it is now in the 3rd year, and the 4th is fast going by, since she began to deceive the minds of the Achaeans in their breasts. She gives hope to all, and makes promises to every man, and sends them messages, but her mind is set on other things. And she hath devised in her heart this wile besides. She set up in her halls a mighty web, a fine roof and very wide, whereat she would weave, and anon she spake among us. Ye princely youths, my wooers, now that the goodly Odysseus is dead, do ye abide patiently, how eager soever to speed on this marriage of mine, till I finish the robe. I would not that the threads perish to no avail, even this shroud for the hero Laertes, against the day when the ruinous doom shall bring him low, of death that lays men at their length. So shall none of the Achaean women in the land count it blame in me, as well as might be, wherein he lie without a winding sheet, and a man that had gotten great possessions. Okay, you can't see this unless you're watching on YouTube, but Antinous, asshole, is doing his best impression of Penelope, giving the reason why it's not his fault. We'll get into that in a second, but what you can't see is that his monologue here pauses mid-episode. So as he was finishing up his Penelope speech, his monologue is going to continue into tomorrow. You can see that on YouTube if you can follow the punctuation mark, so you see the open quotes without the close quote. So we have more Antinous monologue to come tomorrow. Oh boy, aren't we lucky. What is he saying here? Let's break that down. He's saying, yo, it's not our fault. She was asking for it. You should see what she's doing. All the time sitting in that window doing her little weaving and making us all think dirty thoughts. Fuck this guy. One of the things he's claiming here about Penelope is a pretty famous anecdote or element to this story that I'm assuming, since he didn't mention it here, he's going to mention it tomorrow. So maybe I'll save that for tomorrow's episode. But mostly, he's recognizing the emotional impact that Telemachus had on the assembly, because after Telemachus finished with his monologue that we went over yesterday, he dashed the staff to the ground and brake forth in tears, and pity fell on all the people, saying his speech and his sincere emotions are having an effect on the people in this assembly. And I think Antinous recognizes the impact that's having, because it's kind of breaking from tradition for Telemachus to let emotion overcome the point he's making in his speech, letting that overcome and control his action by throwing this ceremonial staff on the ground. And I think Antinous is like, okay, we gotta nip this in the bud. So his whole thing here of saying you're blaming it on us, you're blaming it on our fathers, our upbringings. No. It's Penelope's fault. So aside from what he's saying specifically about Penelope, his tactic here is to kind of splinter, I think, that pointed sympathy that Telemachus had gathered in his monologue yesterday. I can't defend myself from what's happening to my home. You should all be ashamed of yourselves. And Antinous is like, well, no, it's not our fault. It's not our fault because she's out there putting, ideas in our heads. Oh boy. But let's talk kind of literary, which is hard to do here. I do that a lot on the other show, The Countdown of Monte Cristo, because Alexander Dumas is a little bit closer to our modern writing. We're talking about ancient writing here. But what I find fascinating is that even in these ancient times, Homer, or, the conglomerate that is Homer, we'll get into that later, is still using a dynamic quality to these scenes, a dramatic quality, or he's bringing the drama out by going from high emotion to a kind of rebuttal of sorts. And in this case, it's a kind of disgusting rebuttal, but it's the high and the low. It's not an orderly thing. It's not Telemachus just submitting a complaint to the suggestion box and someone reading it out loud and saying, okay, how do you respond? And someone responding in monotone. You see this, like, the highs and the lows coming out here, and that's great drama, whether it's ancient or modern. You need that juxtaposition and the oscillation between these things to keep the audience engaged, to keep our emotional attachment to the story, to the characters, and to just keep it riveting. So I find that to be pretty fascinating. Let's go into tomorrow, because we will have a lot to talk about regarding Penelope and what she is weaving for Laertes. So join me here then, won't you? Okay, goodbye. Odyssey is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. The show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Odyssey, written by Homer. Theme song by Neuroflow. You can support this show and other shows like it by going to patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.